And it is the one pistol that you can always justify getting another one. um, yes, welcome back to the channel. I know you folks, my subscribers, love these type of videos where we just drag out a whole bunch of them. And so believe it or not, I have gotten rid of quite a few. I've kept a little bit of them for now. Well, I guess a table full of them for now. Coffee. Yes. Anyway, Breakfast of Champions. I definitely am a 1911 fanatic. They may not be the best out there. There's probably, all kinds of other really awesome pistols out there that are just 100 times better. And I definitely, understand that, respect that. A lot of polymer wonders, even though I'm not a really big fan of a lot of the polymer stuff out there. If I choose a polymer firearm, it's usually just a Glock. So not really much of a, I wouldn't say like a Glock fanboy. I'm just saying that the Glock is definitely a really good, reliable gun. But there is something super cool about 1911s, the history, and like all the cool guys carried them. Yeah, I love all those old movies. One of the really awesome movies that always come to my mind when I think of these 1911s is like Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen predominantly carried one in a couple really awesome films. One, The Getaway. I mean, it's kind of overshadowed by the K9, the K120 or whatever shotgun he's got. That we actually, on a radio show or two ago, that we actually talked about. We called it The Getaway. That was in the 70s, the early 70s. But it gets overshadowed because actually his sidearm is a Colt 1911. It looks like an original one that he's rolling around there with. And then also the one that he pretty much, that's all he carries, is the Hunter. His last film, and it's a good one. It really is. 1980. Yeah, it came out in 1980. I think they, obviously filmed it in like 79 or something. But he's got a green flight jacket on, and he keeps it like tucked away in the inside pocket of a flight jacket. And those of you that have a flight jacket or at least messed around and wore one, I'm not gonna lie, I bought a green one because of him. I still want to know how the heck did he do that, because it flopped around. This is a heavy pistol. It really is. And loaded with a magazine of 7 rounds, and if you got one in the chamber, 8 rounds of 45 auto, assuming you're carrying 230 grain, there's some weight there. There is some weight there. So I always wondered that, how did he do that? By the way, those of you that are wondering, what the heck is this video? Why are we just rambling on? Well, that's what we do on this channel. We ramble on about things, and we just happen to stumble on a topic like this one. So if you're kind of more interested in the firearms themselves, there's a lot of other videos out there that all those other channels that do the videos and better jobs than I do. But we just hang out and we chat, and that's this video is mainly for all of my folks, that all the fans and the subscribers. You become such a family here on this channel that hang around with the Collectors Radio Show every Saturday morning. But this week was kind of different because we have Halloween coming up. We have a lot of stuff going on. So I kind of wanted to. This is going to be a video-packed week for you guys, because we also have a Halloween video. So don't forget to hang out with me on Halloween night. Those of you that are maybe something to do, watching TV, handing out candy, or just keeping the lights off and watching Night of the Living Dead. Maybe like what I'll be doing. Anyway, the Colt has been my favorite brand, because a little bit of history on it with me. I have always loved the Colt, and that's the one that I really wanted. And I remember when I was kind of after one, the fellow that was selling a lot of firearms, and he was a dealer, and he just, I don't know, for some reason he just wouldn't really, he wouldn't get me one, or he was really just trying to steer me away from him. I don't know, what it was about that. Now I will say, Colt, yeah, it's just a name, and I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit of a fanboy about them. I like them because they're the pony. They're their name. It carries history. It's cool. It sounds cool. You know, it sounds awesome when you have a Colt 1911. There's something about that name, and they make a good one. There is no doubt about it. They do make a good one. It's not like it's just all a name slapped on a slide. I do feel that their guns for production line 1911s, they are cut above the others that are out there floating around. Yes, you can get really good quality ones for the $500-600 range. Not saying that that is cheap, but you know, for not that much more, you can get a production made Colt like this one here. This is one of the new government models that they came out with. I found out about these through Mr. Holster, our great friend that we lost here on YouTube. One of his last videos that he did, he was talking about the Colt commercial gun, the new C model or whatever was coming out that Colt had announced. So when I found out about it, and I heard that, you know, they went back to these really cool roll marks and everything, I was like, wow, I want to go out and see if I can find one. And they were actually fairly inexpensive at the time for a Colt. I think MSRP was like in the $7.99, something like that. And I think I think I paid like $7 something for mine. So I went out after it, and it's, like I said, it's one of the new ones. It doesn't rattle too bad, as most 1911s do start to get to rattle, like my Springfield here. It does rattle as the same. It's going to do that. It's not atrocious on this one. I've shot quite a bit of rounds through this thing. It is just pretty. It's been through the range sessions, definitely. I shot a lot of 45 auto through this thing. So, you know, of course, I did some changes to mine. I put the arch mainspring housing on it because I like that, just to kind of dress it up and throw it back to the old school government style. Because that's honestly where I'm a big fan of. I like the old school government style. Although I do like I do have one here or two that has all the upgrades, the upswept grip safety, a little bit better sights here. This looks like the Novak sights. This one here is the Commander lightweight, and that's actually, although, you know, the love for the old 45, I started to move into the lightweight Commander in 9mm, and that's what this one here is, because my first one was the Springfield Ronin, and I loved it. I love it to death. I don't foresee getting rid of it anytime soon. And I've done a lot of changes to this thing, but yeah, same thing, But I've shot quite a bit, probably more out of this thing than this one, I would say, because it's once I got a hold of this, that was it. I mean, I was blasting it quite a bit. This goes back. These two go back to when I was working at an indoor range. Back when I was actually pretty much in the business. That was the last stop for me in the gun business. I spent a good long time. By the time I had landed there, I was in the business for a good 10 years, and I spent 6 years or so, 5 or 6 years into gun range. Gun range was the last thing that I wanted to do in the business because of my friend Ernie. God bless Ernie, and rest his soul, because he passed away, unfortunately. A really good friend of mine back home on the island of Hawaii. Ernie was a mentor, not just with this stuff. This was just secondary, but Ernie taught me a lot about personal life stuff that I definitely needed to go forward. And he taught me a lot about what to be careful with this business and things like that. But Ernie was just awesome. But Ernie worked at an indoor range. By the time I met him, he had been in the business for quite some time too. Now I kind of understand when I first met, because when I first met him, I got in there and I was hot to trot, man. I was fresh in the business. I was gung ho. This was a brand new toy to me, and man, I was just like, I was definitely into it. So anyway, and Ernie was kind of the old wise man that was just kind of laying back, and now I understand where he was at now. I get it more than ever. So anyway, these two, so I worked an indoor range. That was because Ernie did it, and Ernie told me all these cool stories. And yeah, it's one of the coolest things I think you can do just as a walk-in job, in the firearms business. The indoor range or gun range is one of the coolest things you can do. So one of the awesome perks of that is getting to shoot all the time, every day. So every day I'd bring a whole cluster full of stuff and go check them out. So this thing definitely, towards my last years there, because it was required to carry a firearm, towards my last years there, I started to carry these two 1911s. So first was this one. I carried the 45. This was the commercial gun. I carried that one and shot it and did the qualifications with it. So I did the qualifications with this one. And then I moved, obviously, so carrying it a lot. But then I went to, this was a lighter gun. It was a lightweight frame, 9mm. So it was lighter to carry and easier to shoot. I think, to me, this is the hot package. Commander, lightweight, 9mm. It's a hot ticket, man. It is really a hot ticket. If you've never tried one, I highly recommend you give it a shot. Now, what I like over the Springfield over the Colt, I did say I was a Colt fan. This has got a ramp barrel. If you go with 9mm 1911s, my recommendation is make sure it's got a ramp barrel. Make sure it's got a ramp barrel. That is important. So Colt didn't do that. I don't know. You could, I think it's kind of a knock to them. Some people have actually accused me. They said, you must be a shill for Colt. You must be getting paid from Colt. Man, I wish I was. But to prove to you that I'm not, I guess, I'm going to critique their stuff a little bit. Their 9mm 1911s don't have that ramp barrel. And I'm going to tell you something, too. When I first got a hold of this thing, it choked and puked a lot because it doesn't like a shock buff. You can't run a shock buff in this, and I'm a big fan of running shock buffs. This one doesn't like it, so I don't run one on this one. So I don't run a shock buff. It doesn't have a ramp barrel. I did a lot of work transitioning on the transition of the frame to the chamber. I did some work to it. I actually broke some corners off, and then I took the barrel and went to a good buddy of mine. He's a jeweler, and I said, hey, can you work on this a little bit and do this, this, and this? I tell you, having a friend, a close friend that's a jeweler, man, I tell you, that pays off because I can do things to him and say, hey, dude, I want to replace this fiber optic front sight and put a gold bead in there. And yeah, so he did that nice custom, the one and only right there. So anyway, that's the hot ticket for me. Trekking onto this way, I guess you got to kind of have the old school Mark IV Series 70. This is the one I got. I have it outfitted with, I call this my Felino gun because I'm not, I don't know how many people watching this grew up with a lot of the original Seagal films. I know he's kind of a weirdo now, but I like his movies, his original movies, the first like 5 or so that came out. You got Above the Law, you got Hard to Kill, Out for Justice, which I think is one of his best ones, Out for Justice, because to me it wasn't so unbelievable. So Out for Justice is definitely a good one. But I actually like Under Siege 2. Under Siege 2 is, I think that was his last real good one in my opinion. Under Siege 2 was his last good one. I know it's Die Hard on a Train, but anyway, if you watch Out for Justice, you don't really get to see it good, but there is photos of the actual prop gun that they used in the film, and this is what he has. He's got these brown diamond checkered grips on there, and that's the photograph. So I copied the photograph. Obviously, what he's got is a Mark IV Series 70. This is the cool 1911. All the cool guys talk about it. I call it the Tank Murdoch 1911. Why do I call it that? If you guys know who Tank Murdoch is, character from a movie called Any Which Way But Loose, or it's one of those. It's the first one. It's not the second one. I can't remember because there's Any Which Way But Loose and there's Every Which Way But Loose, and I can't remember which one. One that has Tank Murdoch in it. If you kind of get that metaphor, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, We got some other ones here that are really cool. These are kind of the other cool ones, but sticking with the movie, I hope I don't knock that whole tray down. Sticking with the movie trend. All right, this one here, another newer one. This is a Mark IV Series 70 Gold Cup in 9mm. Why? Well, those grips ought to give it away. And if you know what those grips are and the movie that those are in, you'll know why I have this. Because the movie with Stallone, Cobra, he's rocking a full-size, and I, for a long time, thought it was like a Commander variant. I thought it was a Commander variant, but it's not. It's a full-size 1911, and it's a 9mm conversion unit. It even says it on the other side. You can see a couple scenes where people have actually blown it up where it says conversion unit 9mm. So anyway, that's why I kept this thing. Again, to prove to you that I'm not a shill or something for Colts, which I don't really care with it. But this one rattles quite a bit. You can hear that. I don't know if you can hear that. You can probably also hear that annoying dog barking. That's all that dog does. But I love dogs, so, whatever. But anyway, but yeah, this thing rattles quite something fierce. I've actually taken this thing and I've actually adjusted it myself and done some, adjusting to it, but I don't know why. But this thing really has some slop to it. I'm going to tell you the reason this thing has remained in the collection is because of the movie. Other than that, if it wasn't for the movie, this one probably would get sold. Do not recommend this one. I don't know if I just got a lemon or what, but their new government Colt Gold Cup one here, the 9mm, I don't recommend. It's a rattle trap. I'm not sure what, like I said, what the deal is about it, but anyway. Going back to, and the old school government models, this one's definitely on the list. This is one of those that I was late to the party when I found out about them. It's basically Colt in 2008. Went back through the old blueprints or whatever, and they came out with this thing. Really cool. It's a replica of the original. I used to have original 1918. Buddy of mine wanted it really bad. I sold it to him. I kept the replica. Although the original one doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I actually prefer the A1, the World War II one. The original one, it's cool. It's cool to have. I don't know why I was chasing it so bad at the time. Now that maybe once you get it, it's like, oh man, maybe if I didn't have it, I would still chase it. I don't know. But at the time when I found out about this, and I didn't know a whole lot about a whole lot. I didn't really know it was like like the original configuration kind of deal. I really didn't know that. I didn't really know the difference between the World War I and World War II model. Didn't know the color difference and all that. I just knew that Colt did it, and I was very late to the party. I got very lucky, and a friend of mine had this in his shop back home, and basically gave it to me for what he got into it. So that was really that. I still never forget that. Rob, if you're out there, man, Blue Water Hunter, baby, man, back home on the island, man, that was a cool shop, dude. That was an awesome place. So, anyway, in the Mark IV kind of feeling, this one's cool. Another Mark IV Series 70, but why is this one cool? Because this one is, I feel, somewhat rare. It's in 9mm. There isn't a whole lot of these around back then. So this one's a kind of a really neat one to have. If you're going to, as far as, for me, I mean, my opinion, some people are like, forget that. But this is cool. A Mark IV Series 70 government in 9mm. That's a rare one. That's not as easy to find. I wish they would do that with this. I wish they would, Colt would do that. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. They don't have a whole lot of options in that area for these new ones there. I think if they did the government model in 9mm, or they're making this again. They remade their they quit doing them. They brought them back in like early 2000s, I want to say. They brought them back, the Mark IV 70s, and then they kind of took them away, and then they brought them back again. I know some of the really criticisms is that etching for the roll marks. Yeah, mine has got it too. There was a couple that didn't. They actually roll marked this newer classic model, but those are far in between. I've seen people that have them, and I remember when I first like saw like their listings for them, I'm like, why in the heck are they charging what they're charging for this? Because this shouldn't have been that price. That's like double the price because they let go a couple of these that didn't have that etching. Shame on Colt for doing that, by the way. I'm never afraid to kick him on that one. Does it detract from the gun? Does it make me say I'm not gonna buy it now? I'm irritated by it. I think it's stupid that they did that. But their new Mark IV Series 70 ones that I saw, you can get into that argument about the barrel bushing, the collet barrel bushing, and why, and blah blah blah. But it is so like generically across the board that if it has the firing pin block, it's a Series 80, and if it doesn't, it's a Series 70. So that's just the way it goes. Regardless of whatever, these two here are actually vintage Series 70 Mark IVs. They have a collet barrel bushing that tightens up when it goes into full battery lockup or whatever. So that's kind of what set it apart from the yesteryear guns, the government commercial guns like this one here, that obviously were pretty much made exactly like the World War II gun, only for the commercial market. And the bluing and all that, by today's standards, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. So that one's got a lot of cool history on it. So, just awesome. This is what they call a C serial numbered government model, commercial model, whatever, which meaning it has a C in the serial number. So collectors go bananas over that. So anyway, before we wrap the video, because I'm sure you're pretty bored about this, but some of you are really still here. You're definitely, and again, thank you for all my, collectors radio guys and everybody. Here it is, the last one, the A1, the Colt World War II A1. This one's 1942, 43. I can't remember. We looked up the serial number one time. This one's cool because the slide, this is an early one where the slide was actually serial numbered to the frame. This one's all matching. Hard to find ones that are completed like that. I remember when I traded the guy for this. I traded a guy at a gun show for this. Legit guy, had a license, had the paperwork and all that. But I traded him. I traded him out of this thing. And so I just had to have it because I tell you, I searched a long time for these. They weren't coming up as often. Every time they did come up, it seemed like they were just like out of my price range and everything. Like I said, that's why I had to do a trade on this because that was the only way I was going to get it. This is just super cool. The A1, man, I tell you, it's got wear on it that I wanted because it shows character. It shows that it's been carried. I didn't want one. It was all pristine. I've shot it. It shoots like a dream. It's got the arch mainspring housing with the checkering. It's got everything that I wanted. It's got the inspector mark that's proper for the time and the Colt and all that. It's got the short trigger. And it's got that crazy color, man, that weird color that everybody talks about. But it took me 9 years to find one of those. And I tell you, I've heard a lot of people, it's got a ballast all over it. A lot of people are after them, a lot of collectors. I've heard of that a lot of times. People ask me about them. All right, to wrap this up, speaking of ballastol, stuff I've ended up using on all this stuff to keep them running, to keep them going good. You got it. Ballastol is my choice. I don't get paid by them. I don't. I just happen to end up getting a chance to try some thanks to a fellow named Bob that sent me a bottle just like this. I actually wish I still kept that bottle. I really do because, man, that was the start of everything. I know I'm going to sound like a commercial, but I'm going to tell you something. I got to try it because I always wanted to try it. I always heard about it because on the island, you're surrounded by, just salt and humidity is rampant there. So I always wanted to try it. I tried everything else. I've had some bad experiences with other stuff. I don't want to mention it. I don't want to bash companies or anything. But when I finally got my hands on that, thanks to Bob, sent me a bottle like this. I cut it open, started using it. Ever since then, when I started using it, nothing rusted. I'm telling you, my guns didn't rust. I have a habit that followed me on over from the islands, and that habit is literally slathering your stuff with oil and then storing it or putting it away. I don't take these things out hardly ever unless we're doing something like this. So that is an old habit that dies hard for me. I remember I did a video using a lubricant, whatever it was, one of those new fancy ones that are out there, and I was really slathering. It was actually this gun. It was actually this 1911. Um, and somebody, I mean, they people. I totally forgot, like because like I'm from the island, and that's just the way we did things over there. And people would just like they got on that video and were like, "Oh my God, this guy is like you use like so much, that oil on there. What the hell is wrong with you and all that?" Well, I didn't really think about it because to me it was normal to do that because of the lifestyle and where I was at. Just that's what everything you had to do, not just with firearms, everything. I mean, if you cared about your stuff and didn't want it rusty, that's just what you do. I mean, you could literally have your stuff out there, out in the garage, come back at the end of the week, and that thing is rusty. So that's how bad it is. So anyway, that's what I use for the full lineup. Somebody had mentioned on my radio show about Renaissance wax. This stuff is pretty darn cool. I've been using it. Definitely will always keep this in my inventory. It's expensive. This little bottle right here, or little can, that was like $20, I think. But I'm telling you, it's cool. But it goes a long way. I still have it. I mean, I've used it. I definitely did not I wasn't real like conservative with it. Man, I was using it on all kinds of stuff, and I still got quite a bit of it in there. Yeah, I got about half a can there still left in it. And it smells really cool. It has an interesting smell. I believe it or not, I'm not a big fan of Hoppy's #9. I think that stuff stinks. I know some people are just, oh my God, unsubscribe. Anyway, slide the frames on my range stuff. Slide the frame lubrication or grease, if you will. I've been using the Wilson Combat products. This one's the universal. I also use the light and the grease. I use the grease for the ridiculously hot summers out here in Arizona, so that's what I use there. But the universal works straight across the line. I'm starting to use the light oil when it's winter time, even though we don't get much of a winter, but it's still cold, so I use the lighter oil. So just kind of alternate. But I've been using it for quite some time. I like their products. Their products are excellent, especially their magazines. So I pretty much only use their magazines if I'm shooting. Although I got the other originals for the Colts and stuff like that. But yeah, no doubt when it comes to their mags, I use their magazines pretty much just exclusively. That's it. I don't really use the other ones. So anyway, thanks for hanging out. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it wasn't boring, and even if you're even still here.